Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Welcome back into the Sports Buffoon Studios here in Kansas City. I am your boy, JG. We're doing it a little bit different today, guys. We're coming to you still from Kansas City, but we're going to do it virtual. That's what she said. But seriously, guys, we got the whole crew right now. We got your boy, JG. We got Tanner Dawson, and we got your boy, Mike.
What's up, everybody?
NFL Settle. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Great
right,
week.
You guys didn't do anything fun over this past weekend, do you? Did you?
You know, I actually ice skated for the first time, believe it or not.
I can't imagine Tanner ice skating. How did
Oh,
that
man,
go?
let me tell you what. I didn't fall, but I was the wall hugger the entire time. I got quicker as I went on, but it was a lot tougher than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
Well,
we went to our friend's wedding, and Jason had himself a little fall, actually.
I heard some.
Yeah, well, we don't want to talk about that. I mean, we did go to one of the best weddings that I've been to in recent times, and I actually made some interesting decisions during and after that wedding, but we can talk about that another time. So anyway, we got a great show for you guys today. Talk a little Chiefs a little bit later. Obviously, you got that big Melvin Ingram trade, the Chiefs acquiring him from the Steelers. But we're going to start off right now with, I got to know what you guys are drinking. Are you guys hammered right now, or are you sober?
I'm not hammered by any means.
What you got up there, Mike?
Oh, I got myself a bottle of wine because, as you know, I'm off to Vegas here in a few hours. So I'm trying to take it easy. I'm going to have some wine. This is Standpoint Cabernet. So
that's
pretty
excellent.
solid.
So how many days are you going to be out in Vegas?
5 full days. So I'll be out there throughout the NASCAR championship as well as the Chiefs-Packers game going against Jordan Love. So I'll be placing some bets.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So, you're going to be pounding a lot more bottles of wine out there. So let's start
I don't know
off.
if it's going to be wine or whiskey, but it'll be something for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just come back alive if you would, please, because we still need you for the show. But we're going to go ahead and start out with fantasy midseason surprises. So I just want to know, Tanner, who's going to be a couple of your fantasy surprises to this point in the season?
So I'll give you one right here. Right, I'll give you one right now, and that is running back Derrick Henry. I know it's obvious, right? It's not. I had the 3rd overall pick this year in the Mike's League here. Derrick Henry is my fantasy surprise because I didn't expect him to be leading fantasy stats for running backs and PPR and standard. Yes, he has that injury now. It's very unfortunate, but as we're just thinking as a mid-season kind of deal, Derrick Henry is the guy that I am very surprised on, especially after 2,000-yard season last year. That's very shocking to me that he came out and just fired. I mean, you're looking at point totals, 47, 25, 31, 35. His lowest, of course, was last week as he injured, but yeah, 16 as the lowest. I think week 1 was the lowest, 10 points. We thought he was washed. He comes out week 2 and scores 47, and it just continues on from there. Derrick Henry is my midseason surprise, and like I said, it's very unfortunate for the injury. Maybe we'll see a little Adrian Peterson that come into play now, but I am very shocked that he is the guy this year again, going into year 2 that could have been another 2,000-yard season.
Yeah, I agree with you on Derrick Henry. I mean, I was the first person, I think, to say that he was definitely going to regress.
You did.
After last year, because nobody can do that 2 years in a row.
Well, and if you remember, Jason, the day of our draft went to Mr. Bruce, and you actually told me, don't pick Dalvin Cook, don't pick Kamara, go Derrick Henry. And I'm sort of wished I listened to you, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad I didn't because he ended up being injured. But that was still a great call out.
Yeah, the reason I said that is because I thought all 3 of them were going to regress, but I thought that Derrick Henry would probably regress the least.
Yeah.
So, Mike, who do you got?
Yeah, I think Henry regressed more than anything because of the workload he was getting. It's not that he regressed, it's more so that he was ran into the ground because the Titans were feeding him the ball 25, 30 times a game. And running backs, I don't care who you are, you can't sustain that over the course of a full season. It's just not going to work. Larry Johnson still holds the record for the most yards most rushing attempts in one season ever. And we saw after that his career is right away tanked. So anyways, guys, I'm going to be kind of lazy with this pick here. But Patrick Mahomes is my pick at the moment because in our league, I mean, in a lot of leagues, Patrick Mahomes went in the first round, right? And Patrick Mahomes right now is sitting at the QB5 in most leagues. He's barely above Jalen Hurts, and he's barely above Joe Burrow right now. So if you told me that Mahomes was going to be in the same categories as Hurts and Joe Burrow at the halfway mark of the season, I would have said you're crazy. Like, what's gone wrong? And obviously things have gone wrong. But I think he's right now the biggest kind of surprise right now, midseason, leading the league in interceptions. And obviously, as we know, it's not entirely his fault. The team around him is not a good enough job of taking care of the ball. But otherwise, that's my number one guy. Is that I'm glad I did not have that first pick in our draft because I would have been tempted to take Mahomes myself.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I don't think you can fault anybody for taking Mahomes. I mean, obviously he was due to regress because he was doing ridiculous things on the field for, a few years. And so finally he had his little regression point, but he's going to bounce back at some point. My first guy is going to be Mike Evans. He's already at 39 receptions, 544 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And I was kind of trashing him, at the beginning of the season because I thought there were just way too many mouths to feed in that offense. But he's been pretty consistent outside of that week 1 game against Dallas and then week 6 at Philadelphia. And, a lot of his success has to do with, injuries to Antonio Brown and Gronk. But overall, I mean, he's really impressed me this year because I didn't think he would be a guy that you would be able to depend on week in and week out. And he's proved me wrong. So credit to Mike Evans. You guys have anybody else that you want to talk about?
Guys, actually, I did. Jalen Hurts is actually a really big surprise. And Mike and I, we've gone back and forth on this with Jalen Hurts. We don't really believe in him, at least maybe even for a full season. But he's ranked number 4 overall. The guy has scored tremendous points despite playing pretty decent teams. Dallas, Tampa Bay, stuff like, people like that. And his lowest point total is against some reason the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia's best game, which is all kind of an odd deal. But the fact that Jalen Hurts has kind of quietly stayed at the top of the fantasy quarterbacks rankings throughout these last 8 weeks is very surprising to me. So I am going to say Jalen Hurts is also a midseason surprise because I figured he'd be in at least maybe the 10, 11, 12 ranking range. But right now he's at number 4. So I say Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, he does surprise me a little bit just because I actually listened to a preseason interview with him. It's actually on the Jim Rome show, and he just sounds like a guy who is really motivated. He's got a great head on his shoulders, and I just enjoyed listening to his interview because he has a great attitude. But yeah, he definitely is a surprise, I think, for most people.
Mike, do you have anybody that's the second?
Yeah, one of my big surprises, and mainly because of the situation that I saw them in, I should not have been surprised by this, but DeAndre Swift having such a good year this year has been surprising to me because that team is terrible, and he's having a great year, not necessarily based on production. If you look at his actual yards per carry, he's sitting around 3 yards per carry right now, which, I mean, in most leagues, in most situations, if you're doing that, you're going to be benched. But it's his receiving game that's really picked up and put him in the top, 7 in PPR leagues and fantasy. So the fact he's getting that workload, he actually leads all running backs in targets. And so with that kind of workload in the receiving game, it's now propelled him into being a true RB1 on your fantasy team. And I saw with the way that team was structured that there was no way that was going to happen, but he is their check down guy. He's one of their only weapons. And so that's what has propelled him to have a successful season. So is it sustainable long term? I still don't think so, but
I don't know.
It's working.
I'm not minding it. I'm a DeAndre Swift owner in our league, of course.
Right.
He's on a bye when I face you, but it's all right now because he has surprised me as well. I expected him to just be kind of like the guy, like, maybe I'll throw him as a flex, right? I kind of picked him over certain other people, but yeah, I think Swift surprises me as well.
Yeah, it totally surprised everybody, I think. In fact, one of my base arguments every year, it's kind of generic, but I always tell all of our listeners, never draft a running back that plays for a terrible team. And so Swift definitely fit the bill there, but he's kind of an outlier, I think, for my argument about drafting running backs on bad teams. So great picks, you guys. A lot of surprises this year. But I do want to have a little bit of a different debate right now because I'm going to give you an example of an asterisk championship. The Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship last year. And Tanner, I know you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but in my opinion, nobody in their right mind believes that the Bucks were the best team in the NBA last year. So the debate right now is for the 2021-22 NFL season, do you think that this year's Super Bowl champion is going to have an asterisk next to them?
That's a good question. Can I throw out I don't have a yes or no on this because of the way you asked this here, but can I throw out depends who it is? If it's not the Green Bay Packers, the Arizona Cardinals, the Los Angeles Rams, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, if it's anybody besides those, 5 teams I just named, then people might actually put an asterisk next to it. Is that fair to say?
That's fine.
Buck situation, right? The
Yeah,
Atlanta Braves that just won the World Series, right? It's not the Dodgers, it's not the Yankees, it's not the Red Sox. So that might be an asterisk situation if you're comparing.
Well, no, that's a great example, Tanner, because Ronald Acuna Jr. was actually injured and didn't play. So that's a great example. But the reason I asked the question is because I had predicted at the beginning of the season that you would see, much like you did in the NBA playoffs, we would see a record number of injured players by the end of this NFL season. And so, now we've got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to miss a game due to COVID. We have a bunch of other players that have missed games due to COVID, even though they were fully capable of playing. And so that's the debate for me. And that's my question to you guys is do we give an asterisk to the Super Bowl champion? Because you could still have the 2 best teams in the league playing in the Super Bowl. But if one guy gets knocked out or if one guy got knocked out earlier due to COVID, is there value? Is there as much value on that Super Bowl as there has been in years past?
Well, one thing I want to say, Jason, to what you're talking about here is that, last year people want to look at 2020 as the year of the asterisks. And the thing is, we didn't see nearly as many players being put on the sideline due to COVID last year during the NFL season as we are this year. And we're seeing it actually impact this season by far greater than we did a year ago. And so for me, it's like last year was legitimate. Last year, the best team in football won the Super Bowl. Last year, the best team in the AFC made it to the Super Bowl. This year, and we're talking about Devontae Adams had to miss last week, Allen Lazard. Now Aaron Rodgers is going to be missing this game against the Chiefs, as you just pointed out. And it's like, okay, what's going to happen here when we get to crunch time and the playoffs kick off? Because last year we didn't have any problems with people being out due to COVID, due to NFL's protocols. This year they put in more steps to make it even more difficult for the players to where when they do contract COVID or at least test positive, to have to go through more steps in place. And it's making it to where you're seeing guys every week. You never know. Antonio Brown already had to deal with COVID and missed a game. And what's going to happen when the playoffs roll around? And let's pretend that Tom Brady now has to miss a divisional NFC game. At that point, absolutely, this is an asterisk season. That is not the way you want the league to represent itself as far as getting the best product out there when the best players in your league are now missing games in crunch time over the season due to COVID. So I just think you don't want to have a situation where the Cowboys roll in and they're playing against the Packers or whatever, but Dak Prescott can't play due to COVID, or Zeke has to be out due to COVID. At that point, the whole thing is different. The whole thing is not as evenly structured as we were hoping for the season to portray itself to be.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on that. I mean, the playoffs are going to magnify these situations so much more. But for me, it's about the regular season too, because the standings matter when it comes to seeding and where teams are placed in the bracket. And so it's like one game is a big deal, and that's why I think obviously Aaron Rodgers missing this game against the Chiefs is a huge deal, because let's just assume that he coughed like twice and he's fully capable of playing. In the entire history of the NFL, what would normally happen, guys? And basically for me, the guy would just tell his coach, I feel fine. Coach, I'm going to play.
Well,
and that's,
the Walter
you're
story.
comparing, my point is like, you're going to compare this year to the rest of NFL history, where they didn't have to worry about this stuff. All they would say is, yep, I got a little cough and I'm going to play, but nobody ever tested these guys. So to me, that's the biggest reason why you will have an asterisk no matter how the playoffs turn out, because these regular season games matter as far as seeding.
Absolutely, because the Chiefs could very well lose to the Packers if Aaron Rodgers was in there playing in the game this weekend. And now that Jordan Love's in there, I mean, the Chiefs have themselves a great shot at getting a victory now, whereas beforehand it was a little more up in the air. And so I think that's something to just keep an eye on, because Chiefs looking at 4-5 while they have the Cowboys coming up as well as the Raiders, and then a couple other pretty solid teams down the road. That's a big difference from a team now looking at 5-4 who only needs about 10 wins to be in the playoffs.
And I guess my final point before you go, Tanner, is that just keep in mind, I mean, what would have happened in the Michael Jordan flu game, which was a very important game, by the way. What would have happened to Jordan if they would have said, dude, you're not playing? I mean, everybody in the world knows that the Bulls would have lost that game. And so for me, there's always going to be an asterisk, no matter who gets in the playoffs, no matter who wins it. Although, as a Chiefs fan, I might be a little bit biased on that. I might change my mind on this argument if the Chiefs win.
And
I'd be okay
Walter
with
Payton
it too.
also had himself a flu game as well. In 1977, Walter Payton set the record for most rushing yards in a single game while having the flu. So that would have never happened if he'd been held out of that game.
Never happened. Yeah, they would have erased probably a big part of history. So what's your take on this, Tanner?
All right, so here's why I don't think it's an asterisk season. As long as the full season plays, a Super Bowl is crowned named. There are rules and limitations set prior to the season, which there were, right? We kind of talked about this in our chat. The rules and limitations were set prior to the season. You knew exactly what you were getting into. Every player did, every team did, no matter the circumstance, right? It's treated the same way as if a guy sprained an ankle for a week, right? It's the same way. You're out. You're not playing. You're out. Okay. I'm not counting this asterisk. A full season's played. The Braves just played a full season. They won. They were not the best team in baseball. We know this. That's not an asterisk. Giannis won with the Milwaukee Bucks. Not an asterisk. I don't care how many injuries you had. That's not the worry of it. It's not an asterisk.
Tanner, I have a question.
What?
I have a question for you. So, if the Cincinnati Bengals defeat the New Orleans Saints this year in the Super Bowl,
yep.
If they go and defeat the Saints this year in the Super Bowl, are those the two best teams in the league? Is that who's deserving of this championship this year?
I didn't say they were the best team. Atlanta Braves just had the same situation. They are not the best team in the league. The Braves just won the World Series, yes, but they are not the best team. Okay.
Well, I've got a little bit of a problem with your Braves argument, because you said the Braves don't deserve an asterisk.
No, they don't.
But at the same time, you said the NFL, hear me out here, you said that the NFL had rules in place before the season started. Am I right?
They had
rules
in place
happened,
before the season started.
What happened in Major League Baseball? They did not have rules in place at the beginning of the season for spider tack. They waited until the
Oh
season
my
was
gosh.
in full swing.
You can't
It was
go
in
into
full
spider
swing.
tech.
So
You can't go
guess
into
what,
spider
dude?
tech.
There's an asterisk on the World Series.
That was not an asterisk because they caught it. They even caught it early. But it's not
Hey.
even the case. They could have kept it in because it's been iffy on seasons.
I'm using your own argument. They did not have those rules for spider tack in place at the beginning of the season.
So
So
what's that
now
matter with
you're
COVID?
saying. So now, by your example, you have to say that the Braves have an asterisk.
No,
next
the
to
Braves
their
don't
name.
have an asterisk. Plain and simple.
Anyways.
They don't. Spider tag has nothing to do with anything. They could have kept it in for. That's what I wanted, and we had that on one of our shows.
Do you want to answer Michael's question here on our chat real quick?
Yeah, let's post it up real quick here before we get in too deep here. So Michael chat just commented here. My team is J Herb, Keenan, Diggs, Pitts, Hollywood, with Dalvin and Zach Moss / Gaskins as my RB2. Would you package Diggs and Gaskins for a good RB2? If so, then who? So this guy's looking to try to package Diggs and Gaskins, right? Try to get rid of Gaskins, which we all agree on. I mean,
right. But giving up
would you go
Diggs,
for
that's a
RB2?
lot. Like
That's a lot
Diggs
to
is
give
also Diggs is also just a guy who is touchdown deprived, and that thing's going to turn back around. He's going to start getting more touchdown catches throughout the rest of the season. Like, he's your true WR1. You're going to be giving up your WR1 on your team to get an RB2. I don't think that's probably a good idea. I think you're better off holding on to Diggs and really playing the waiver wire for that RB2 spot. And, Gaskin can only do so much. But
you could also play matchups right now with Zach Moss and Gaskins, too. Like, Gaskins is still a receiving back. Zach Moss will get his touches. Like, it's not the end of the world for an RB2.
I just wouldn't give up Diggs is all.
No, I wouldn't give up, especially when you're pairing him with J Herb, Keenan, and Hollywood and Pitts, who are getting plenty of touches and targets. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you guys on that because Diggs is totally going to turn it around. And if you do try to pull off that trade with an RB2, it better be a top of the food chain RB2, whoever that is, or maybe like a back end RB1. That would be my target there.
Heck, maybe a DeAndre Swift. Maybe you can go out and get a Swift or something. That's probably wouldn't be a
DeAndre
bad
Swift. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in PPR, Swift has a lot of value, but I know right now, Jason. I think right now Diggs' touchdown total is sitting at 2 or 3. Is that right?
Whatever it is, it's god awful because he's on my team, and
right,
he's never done
exactly.
shit. So,
but the thing is, we expect that to definitely turn around as the year rolls on, and those touchdown totals are going to pop up. He's actually got 3 right now. I would say look for that 3 to turn into about a 9 by the end of the year.
And you got to look at it too, right? Look at the schedule here: Jacksonville, the Jets, Indy, New Orleans, who is one of the worst on the offensive side for wide receivers. New England, Tampa Bay, Carolina. Those guys are all going to be money for you on the wide receiver end. I would not trade Diggs.
I'd be more willing to package Keenan Allen over Diggs with a deal like that, just due to Keenan Allen's injury history. So,
correct.
I would just say that would probably be a better option than giving away your true WR1, which is Stephon Diggs. That's who you drafted over Keenan Allen to begin with, and those touchdown totals will come back around.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, great point.
Thanks for the question, Michael.
Yeah, excellent question. We are going to go ahead and move on to our Chiefs topics today. The Chiefs, I don't know if you want to say it was luck or whatever they had going for them, but they did pull off a win against the Giants 20-17. Offensively, Mahomes completed his first 8 pass attempts, but he also had an interception, completed 60% of his passes for 275 yards and a 74.2 passer rating. Also, Darrell Williams and Derek Gore, of all people, they split carries.
Derek Gore, baby.
And I think both of those backs were efficient. Tyreek Hill caught 12 passes and a touchdown. Kelsey didn't really get it going so much. Offensive line only gave up 7 pressures and no sacks. And so what were you guys' takeaways from that game offensively?
Go ahead,
Tanner.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So offensively, guys, right? I thought Niane was coming in after being benched for a couple of games, right? Rimmers was in there. Niane came in. I thought Niane did a great job. kind of more, it seemed like a little bit more. He was a little bit more refreshed, a little bit more consistent on the right hand side. But I thought the running game was there. We should have done more of it. Williams kind of had a struggle, but Derrick Gore really came through. He had that really great drive that led into a score for a touchdown. That really was what we needed on the team at that point. So seeing Derrick Gore really come through was nice to see. I did see, and Mike, Jason, you may have noticed as well, I did see Josh Gordon on the field a lot more. We're just almost there per Andy Reid on getting him the ball now. That's our next step. We're going to try to get him the ball. But Tyreek came alive. Travis Kelce was kind of disappointing at times, but he did end up rebounding off after that fumble. It wasn't the worst. Let's put it that way. It wasn't the worst. There could have been more done, but I'll take what I saw right now.
So what's going on with Kelce? I mean, he kind of looked like somebody pissed in his Wheaties. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on what's going on with him?
Yeah, I don't get it. I think that there's kind of a lack of energy in some guys on the team right now, and I'm never going to say that Kelce doesn't care or anything, because he's proven over the time that he does care. But I think it's just he's getting frustrated, and Mahomes is frustrated with himself and with the team right now too, to where he's kind of pressing. And Kelce was actually coming open on a couple of routes that Mahomes just didn't see him on. And Mahomes is so worried about bailing out of the pocket so quick that he's actually missing Kelce coming open on shallow crossing routes.
Right. There was that third down that I think he ended up almost getting sacked, but he ended up throwing away. He was on running left, so it was a little harder to throw. Yeah. But yeah, he
didn't need to run left right there. Yeah, either Kelce was breaking free on that. That might have been a touchdown if he'd made that throw there. And, I think, got to understand this. Kelce is still the number one tight end in the league. If you check your fantasy team, he's still the number one tight end in your league. There's nothing wrong with Kelce. I think Kelce's frustrated right now with just everything going offensively kind of wrong right now. And I think that Mahomes has a lot of pressure mentally going on with distractions going on in his life. And I think it actually is carrying over. I refused to say this until recently because it's been talked about. But I actually think that the things going on in his personal life are actually carrying over to the field now. And the guy's a lot on his plate. And we saw this here this past weekend where he's not seeing the field all the way. And that's frustrating to see as a guy who's followed Mahomes his whole career, from even Texas Tech and now as a Chief, of course. And now see him kind of become somewhat of a shell of what he was capable of in the past. Even that pass to the end zone that bounced off McKinnon's face mask in the game. Yeah. I mean, Josh Gordon was wide open sitting there in the end zone. There was no reason to miss him. He was wide open, just waiting for the pass to come his way. And instead, the ball ends up somehow ricocheting off Gordon's fingertips, actually, and then hitting McKinnon right in the face mask. Like, just stupid things like that don't need to happen. It's just dumb luck, but also it's not your typical Mahomes. And I think it's just the whole offense is out of sync when it comes to their confidence in a lot of ways.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this here. Mahomes, right? He seems more conservative this year, right? He's trying not to make the interception throws or the potential interception throws that he's done in the past years. But he's throwing interceptions because he's trying to be too conservative. I mean, are you almost willing, if you're next to Mahomes, are you almost willing to go up to him and be like, go play like you did the last 2 years? Of if you throw a damn interception, you throw a damn interception. But damn it, it's hard. It's where you want to go. And that's, you play the risky play, essentially. Is that kind of what maybe you guys would say to him?
That's part of it, but I think the biggest thing for me is the fact, back to Mike's point about him bailing out of the pocket all the time. I think that's something that he can improve over time. I mean, it's basically a brand new offensive line, and he doesn't really trust these guys yet. And that takes a little bit of time for you to develop trust with your offensive lineman. I think in the back of Mahomes' mind, he probably relives that Super Bowl every day of his life. He probably has nightmares about it. And what happened in that game? PTSD. He just got wrecked. Totally PTSD. Wrecked. And so I think it takes a little bit of time, but I do think that he will get better at trusting his new offensive line. And it's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and you saw pictures, afterwards too, of a pocket that was still intact, and he's already zooming out because
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I gotta go, I'm gonna get sacked, but you're not gonna get sacked.
Yep, and
Right.
for me, that's just totally flashbacks to the Super Bowl game, and he's got to take a look. It's going to take some time, but hopefully he can eventually get over that. Hopefully, now.
Heck, I mean, he had 2 years worth of basically an O-line that wasn't really great at protecting him, and now he's got good guards, a good center, the right tackle and left tackle. It's kind of figured it out game to game, but yeah, it's really hard because you never had that consistency.
Also, Tanner, of trusting that offensive line. Keep in mind, all these guys are brand new across the board right now for this team, and the footwork of Orlando Brown is different than footwork of Eric Fisher. And Lucas Nying playing right tackle is going to be different footwork from what he's seen in years past to Mitchell Schwartz. And so I think he's now learning where they drop back on their steps and their techniques compared to what he's worked with over the last few years. And I think that once he gets more of those things down and what to expect from each of his individual teammates, he can now have trust with that offensive line. Because, I mean, Creed Humphrey's done a damn good job for rookies. So let's give him credit where credit's due, because that dude, if you guys have checked, what we all think of Pro Football Focus, but highest rated rookie center since 2006 on Pro Football Focus, which I actually think that's when they began their website, as a matter of fact. Okay. I mean, Creed is playing great. Trey Smith is a mauler. He just needs to quit getting called for holding. Joe Tooney's played fine, but I just think that there's got to be there's a little, believe it or not, Mahomes' confidence is not all the way there right now. And as a guy who is a full Mahomes believer, and we've never seen the dude not have confidence, he's actually right now second guessing himself on a lot of decisions, and that's the thing that we need to get turned back around.
Correct.
Totally agree with you. And as far as the defense is concerned, guys, I saw a little bit of improvement there as far as Frank Clark and Chris Jones. They made some plays down the stretch in that game. I actually had a Frank Clark signing.
Did you guys notice
Didn't even know that guy was still on the team. And Willie Gay had a huge impact on the game.
Yes.
Secondary was not great. Newsflash, Sorensen still sucks and probably shouldn't be on the field. But I do see a little bit of hope for this defense. So what were you guys' thoughts on the defensive side?
So defensive side, guys, I thought it was interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Chris Jones played a little bit inside. He was actually playing the inside with Dana and Clark on the outside, and we were seeing a pass rush actually happen when that happened, right? That was kind of nice. Then he would bounce kind of back and forth as well from inside out. So that was really cool to see. Neiman has no reason to be on that field. It should be a Gay, Bolton, middle. Like, I want to see DOD out there, for God's sake. Like, let's just do something different. I'm tired of it. As far as it's kind of the secondary, though, I think Matthew needs to start trusting some of his guys so that he doesn't have to give up his where he's supposed to be, his assignment, right? I think he's trying to do too much with what's going on in that secondary right now, that we need him to make sure he's following his assignment, because he's got a couple guys that he should be covering that he ends up trying to bail, and that hurts us because the other guys aren't doing their job in the back end. That's just kind of what I kind of noticed throughout the game on Monday.
Yeah, I liked seeing Chris Jones more on the inside as well. And not to give too early of a thought here, Jason, but the addition of Melvin Ingram is going to make Chris Jones more of an inside piece once again. I think you're going to see Ingram playing a lot of down defensive end linemen, hand in the ground even. And, because he's traditionally been a 3-4 outside linebacker, but we all know those guys can kind of interchange a little bit and play more with the hand in the dirt. And I think Chris Jones, as much as we wish it would have worked out at defensive end, that project probably needs to be over with. Unfortunately, he's not quite the animal Aaron Donald is, where Donald could probably play safety and still kick ass. But and this thing is like, let's put our best players in the best positions to succeed. And if Chris Jones' best position is D tackle, then don't worry about him playing D end. We need to just find other guys to fill that role. And him playing D tackle, we saw right away once he was put in there more throughout this game against the Giants. Pressure immediately, getting penetration in the backfield, making plays. Even that goofy ass little loop-de-loop play where he's all turned around, but he knifed in there within a split second in that play, which was amazing to see because we don't see him do that at DN because he can't. It's not the same thing. But for that, and then Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, guys, gosh, those two might be the future at linebacker here, as long as they keep up their playmaking ability. Because Nick Bolton as a run defender is looking stellar, and Willie Gay now we've seen him make plays in the pass defense game, and that's been amazing to watch unfold. So I think right now they're starting to kind of move some pieces around right now with this defense. Anthony Hitchens will be back this week. Not that we really care. The main reason we care is because that probably means less Ben Neiman. And so less Ben Neiman is addition by subtraction, as we always talk about, Jason. And so, let's kind of keep tinkering as the season unfolds, and maybe we can do that thing we always talk about, Jason, as well, peak at the right time for this defense and get them on the right track come weeks, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
We got to peak at the right time, but my gosh, Mike, as much trash as you talked on Hitchens last couple of weeks, I thought that you would want Ben Neiman in there instead of Hitchens.
Oh, hey.
That just blew my mind. Like you trashed him so much. I felt sorry for the guy. But,
just because he's been overpaid and he sucks does not mean he's worse than Ben Neiman. Okay, let's make that clear.
So Tanner, what are your thoughts on Melvin Ingram? Because for me, I think this could be a game changer for that Chiefs defense if Frank Clark actually shows up to the game every week, instead of, carrying around his Uzi or whatever the heck he likes to do in his spare time. If he shows up every week, I mean, to me, Melvin Ingram could be a game changer here.
No, that's correct. That's very well correct. So at first when I heard this trade, I'm like, great. Are we going to use him though, like we did Josh Gordon so far? Like, hey, here's a play. Here's maybe 2 plays. Yeah, all right, you're out. You're benched. Kind of gave me confidence today though that Andy Reid said the guy's already been practicing and he anticipates to use him this weekend. And that's exactly what I want to hear because we didn't do that with Josh Gordon. We didn't rush him. We had Melvin Ingram, who's actually going to be able to come into this team and hopefully make an impact here. Now, what I'm hoping here is with Melvin on one side, Frank Clark on the other, maybe hopefully Jones and Reed in the middle, that we're going to get that spark that we saw this past week on Monday night of Frank Clark's confidence coming out, which is what we've been missing from Frank Clark. The guy has been, get in the backfield, get his moves down, and actually try to put some kind of pressure. I'm not even just saying sack. I didn't care. Don't just put pressure on the quarterback. I think Melvin's going to help with that because there's going to be less of trying to figure out where do you go with Chris Jones injured all the time, Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark might come alive with Melvin Ingram on the other side and Chris Jones in the middle. That's what I'm most excited about is to see Melvin Ingram make an impact, not just for the Chiefs, but also for some of the players on the defensive line.
Yeah, Mike, do you have any other thoughts on that trade?
The thing is, I would say let's not get our expectations up too high on this trade. Keep in mind, this guy is 32 years old. And also, you might see him come in, might play 20% of the snaps, something like that. We know Andy likes to take it easy on newcomers to the team, AKA Josh Gordon, of course, this is a situation there. But I think that it does help in the fact that it allows more flexibility across the front 7 and especially the front 4. And I think that's why this is an important trade. The only thing that sucks about it is that, guys, Melvin Ingram was just in Kansas City last March and we let him go. They had him in-house as a free agent, didn't sign him to a deal, let him walk. Also, we didn't sign Justin Houston. It's like, okay, we all 3 of us probably saw that the Chiefs needed to add some defensive end depth, but yet they didn't do it. And now we end up giving up a 6th-round pick to grab Melvin Ingram now at this point when we could have had him for just the contract not too long ago. So I guess that's, hindsight's 20/20 kind of a deal. But I think that he makes more of an impact than Terrell Suggs did a couple of years ago for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's fair too, Mike. You said a very good statement. It's not to get overhyped about this because the Steelers did take this playing time away essentially after I think it was week 3 and his playing time and snap percentage really went down, which is kind of a worry because that team is also really not great on defense, and they were struggling with a lot of injuries at that time too.
And they were dropping him into coverage a lot on their defensive scheme, which I don't understand. I mean, you guys remember back in the day when we'd see Justin Houston covering a guy 40 yards downfield, and we're going, Bob Sutton, what the fuck are you doing? And I think that Melvin Ingram was being used that way in Pittsburgh. And I think he was frustrated, and I think the team was too. But it's like, okay, you guys are idiots. The guy's not meant to be a coverage linebacker. Just let him rush and get what you can out of a 32-year-old guy. I mean, come on.
I agree.
Well, for me, overall, I'm looking forward to Steve Spagnuolo turning it around as he historically does. You know, towards the end of the season, those Spagnuolo defenses, they normally peak at the right time. So I'm looking forward to that. But moving on to this upcoming game with the Green Bay Packers, Chiefs are -7.5. That's up from -2.5 since we found out about the Aaron Rodgers news. For me, guys, this is a must-win game. For me, it was a must-win game when I knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to be playing because it was a home game. And so I want to know you guys' thoughts on that. It's Jordan Love's first ever career start. And in general, if you have a first start or a rookie quarterback like that, you don't want to have your first start ever in your life to be at Arrowhead Stadium or Geehaw Field or whatever the heck you want to call it. But what are you guys' expectations from this game?
So my expectations going into this game is for the Chiefs to run the ball. Not just run the ball, but let's run the ball up the middle. Let's use our two guards, our center, and let's just stuff it up the middle. We are way more successful, and I don't have the stats on me, and shame on me, but we are way more successful when you go north to south, especially between the guards and the center, than we are trying to break it outside with our tackles, which is kind of weird because we have O'Brien on the left-hand side. So I hope to see. Yeah, that's why you got to go up the middle. Let's go Gordon. Let's go Williams and just stuff it up the middle here. And hopefully we see Josh Gordon involved. And I'm kind of curious to see if they make any more adjustments on defense. If we see more Chris Jones in the middle, if we see kind of a mix, and kind of see the playing time and the snaps percentage that comes on the end with Dana, Okafor, and Ingram. So that would be kind of interesting to see how that happens. But as far as going against the Packers as well, look, Mike White just led the league in passing last week, and this is a nobody that we played for the Jets. I'm not counting anything out with Jordan Love. I don't think he was that great. Honestly, myself, he didn't have a great preseason, but you never know. Guys can hop in with the starters and be a total different kind of quarterback here. So don't count them out yet. They got Devontae back. They got the Lizard King back. Aaron Jones is still there. Randall Cobb, who knows how to play. Like he's still got weapons. He's got a line. He's got veteran leadership there. So I'm not throwing anything past Love right now because we just almost lost to Daniel Jones, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and we might see a game here coming up, Tanner, where both teams are trying to run the ball because we've seen sort of an emergence lately of A.J. Dillon, their big back that runs up the middle very well, and playing with a young quarterback like Jordan Love going in his second year in the league, and, you know, in the Chiefs situation where they're just trying to figure out what works right now without turning the ball over. And I think that, you know, the Derrick Gore played great. I mean, they think we're now realizing, maybe Andy's realizing that this offensive line is built around the power running game. And Andy's old style West Coast finesse offensive line bullshit.
Brian Westbrook style. Like, come on, man. Let's just stuff it up the middle, baby. Let's just run it.
Brian Westbrook. Sorry, Clyde is not Brian Westbrook. So even when Clyde comes back, I'm sorry, we got to stick with the power running game. We got to continue to do what is working right now on the ground with Darrell and Derrick Gore, who deserves more carries. But yeah, I think we're just going to see maybe a little bit of power from both teams here because, as you know, Aaron Jones, of course, is a great running back. But Green Bay does have, I think, the whole arsenal of receivers back. Even Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be back this week, I believe. And so that's something to at least keep an eye on throughout the week as we get closer to game day. And you know, I just hope that the Chiefs, you know, can be that team now that will force that safety to come down in the box. And then Mahomes can do that thing we just talked about, Tanner, back to his old self where he's kind of luring you in a little bit and then can hit you for a 30 to 40-yard bomb over the top once those safeties creep up a little bit, because that's what you want to do. You guys realize this? The Chiefs have now faced by far the most too high safety in the entire league by over 100 snaps compared to the next closest team. Everyone is playing the Chiefs the exact same way. Too high safety, man under most of the time, and it's just working, because the Chiefs want to go deep. They want to run all these damn deep patterns, and when you play too high safety, it doesn't work out as well. It's just not working. So having that run game, I think coming into the game with that approach rather than going 5 wide is going to be the strategy to take into account here. And I think we'll see an interesting game. But yeah, I'm not counting out Jordan Love either. I think this guy's going to potentially have a good game as well.
Didn't you start him versus me this week?
I'm going to start him against you, Tanner. You should be scared because I have a damn good team, and I'm going to have Jordan Love put up a 30-burger on your ass.
We'll see.
Yeah, he doesn't really need Jordan Love because the rest of his team is stacked. So Jordan Love can go ahead and suck this week for all I care.
I'm just waiting for Russell. Once Russell Wilson's back, it's game over.
It's game over.
Right. When I first saw that -7.5 line, I kind of took it as a smack in the face, and I thought that the Chiefs should take it as such, playing an Arrowhead. But then I realized that the Packers actually have this number 7 defense in the NFL right now. But that should be a thing that we can easily overcome. I mean, I think the Chiefs should win this game by 10 with Jordan Love getting his first start. But
so Jason, I have a question for you. With me going out to Vegas here tomorrow, I'll be in Vegas sometime in the next 14 hours. So when I see that line, when I walk up to the sports book, what should I bet on for that Chiefs-Packers game? Who should I put the money on?
Oh, Chiefs are going to cover.
Okay.
They have to, because that Giants game was pathetic. To win that game by 3, and everybody else, I mean, we all trash them, and the general media trashes them after every game, whether they win or lose. So at some point, they've got to come back to life and cover that spread. And I think this is the week to do this. You have to step on a team when they're down. So I'm not saying that the Packers are down right now, but they don't have Aaron Rodgers, who is the reigning MVP. So in my mind, you have to step on a team when they're down like that. And I think, even though they have the number 7 overall defense, I mean, they're just like anybody else. They're due for a letdown. And why wouldn't that letdown happen at Arrowhead? So I would go ahead and bet the Chiefs to cover. But anyway, do you guys have any other thoughts on the upcoming game?
I don't know. I'm just excited to see what's different. I feel like there's been a change the last couple of weeks, and I'm hoping a third week in a row we'll see something different. I'm hoping to see more Josh Gordon looks here. That'd be my excitement, hopefully.
Yeah, the Chiefs got a lot of proving themselves right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, guys, we're going to end the show, and I thank you guys all for joining. Mike, you're gonna be playing some baccarat out there in Vegas, so I know you're gonna be making a shitload of money. So I wish you the best of luck. And you guys have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
Follow us on TikTok. We'll have some TikToks this week here. It might be somebody different giving you the pick'ems.
I'll be in Vegas putting up the TikToks even.
That's right. Mike will be in Vegas TikToks. Jason, we're gonna get TikTok out of Tulsa this weekend.
Hey, it doesn't get any better, guys. When we all when all 3 of us do TikToks at the same time, that's one of the greatest things that can happen in life. So anyway, we appreciate you guys joining. And this,
I was going to say, make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow, give us a shout on Twitter, YouTube. Give us a shout on social media overall. TikTok, like I said, we're all around. So.
Do it. We're all around. Mike and I are going to be in two completely different casinos this weekend, but you can certainly hit us up wherever we are. And with that, we're going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you for joining. This is your boy JG along with the Sports Buffoons. We're out.
See you guys.